everybody. Welcome to the UCA Hot Shop here in Farnham, in Surrey, in England. My name is Laura Quinn. I'm the glass technical tutor here in the ceramics and glass department, and I have the real honour of introducing Elliot Walker, who's with us today.
Hello.
So, Elliot, tell us a little bit about what you're going to do today.
So when I get the chance to do a demonstration, so I'm really happy to be here and have this opportunity. I always try and do something that I haven't done before. So I'm going to be experimenting with, so this is like a test piece that I did a while ago. So a lot of my work is based on like the presentation of food and the animals within food as trophies or as meat or, something like that. So it's all about sort of food and our perceptions and presentation of it. So this is like a test piece that I've done. I've done a few of these and I wanted to work on something, a little looser. So I wanted to make like quite a naive sort of fish as this like sort of clunky trophy on this very rigid form, but it doesn't work for me and it hasn't been working for me. So we're going to flip it around today and work like really detailed on these components of the fish's head and its tail, and then use the form that it's actually been presented on to sort of go a bit crazy with it and make something a bit looser and a bit more organic, So the idea is to have these beautiful sculpted parts, and then the body of the fish has gone and there's just all this blue sort of bubble like bulging out of it. Yeah. So it's a test for like a series of pieces that I will carry on later on.
Brilliant. And then you're going to be making parts, keeping them warm, and then assembling?
Yeah.
So you're going to be really pulling on our team today?
Yeah, hopefully, yeah. I'm going to start with the easiest part so I can get used to the space as well.
And the glass?
And the glass, and everything else.
And everything else, new team and everything?
Yeah.
Brilliant.
So I'll start off with the easy bit and then we'll build up the complexity as we go along.
Great. So we'll let you get started.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
Thank you.
And I'll be doing the kind of commentary throughout today's demonstration.
Cool.
If you have any questions at all, you can pop them in the live chat section on the YouTube stream, and we'll do our best to answer them. So no questions too big or small, just keep them coming in. We've also got a live in-house audience, which will be adding to questions as well. And we're just basically going to be talking through the process, asking the artists some questions, and you're going to see how we work as a team here. So we'll let them get started. So today we have got a range of different students, different experience levels with us. We have got Callum, who's in first year. Give a wave. Got Faith next to Callum, who's in second year. And then we've got Kieran, who is in third year. Then we've got Aria over here, who is our artist in residence for the year and started only a few months ago. He's going to be working on kind of creating a whole new body of work here throughout the year. In the background, we've got Josh Curley, artist in his own right, but he's also the glass lecturer here on the course. So in terms of the course, it's made up of Josh, myself, and Emma Rawson, who look after the glass side. We've got Ashley Howard, we've got Susan Antwell and Jane Harris, who make up the ceramic side. So it's a really well kind of kitted out staffing, and we're all kind of artists in our own right. So when we work with our students, we're actually teaching from what we know, from exhibiting, from working in galleries and presenting our work to the world. So it's very active, kind of in the know knowledge that we're passing on now to the next generation. Right, so Elliot is lining up to get his first gather from the furnace. A gather is what we call that amount of glass that we get on our blowing iron. So it is very, very similar to picking up honey on a chopstick. If he stops turning at all at this point, especially while it's so molten, it will actually drop to the ground. From this point onwards, you will pretty much notice that he is turning for most of the rest of this piece. So he's now tapping the glass gently into his color. This color, I believe, is yellow iris. And yes, it looks like a goldy topaz color at the moment, but the fish that you see on the piece that he has there beside it, same color, but it's how we heat it at the very end that turns it this beautiful metallic array of different shades and colors. So he's now gone into the reheating chamber, also known as our glory hole. This is at 1,200 degrees Celsius, which means it's hotter than the furnace itself. And we use that to keep the glass nice and hot and soft as we're working with it. He's going there for another little roll in the colour. If anyone here has ever coated an ice cream with sprinkles on it, it's quite similar. You have to really take the weight of the glass. You're not letting it kind of smash down into the colour. You have to be quite gentle with it so you don't cause any folds or creases or knock it off centre. And then he's using what we call a marver here to shape it. So a marver looks kind of like a big steel table, but it is actually a very kind of specific tool for us that we use for shaping and cooling the glass. And it comes from the Italian word marble. A lot of the terms that you'll hear throughout today have their kind of origins in Venetian glass blowing. So Elliot's just popped his bubble in there. You see it's now come through. Blink and you'll miss it. You can see how that has just puffed out in a matter of a few seconds. And it's that technique of starting the bubble that we teach our first years in their first few lessons in the hot shop. And believe it or not, even though Elliot makes it look really easy, it's actually incredibly difficult to get the hang of it. He's just chilling down the sides, shaping them up in the marver. You can see there's still quite a nice amount of thickness there in the bottom of the bubble. And he has to go back to that glory hole quite frequently just to keep the heat in it and keep it molten, moving, soft enough so that he can continue to inflate and start to shape it. Now he's swinging it out, elongating it, using a mixture of gravity and centrifugal force to pull it out. And now he's heading over to the glass blowing bench. The tools he's using here is called a jacks. And mainly the jacks are used for kind of sliding and gliding along the glass. We often put beeswax on them to help them glide along. That's what Elliot's doing right now. He's just topping them up with wax. Necking in there at the bottom. So we use this tool to create what we call the jack line, which is that constriction point right at the end of the arm. If he completed this piece and forgot to put his jack line in, there would be pretty much zero chance of it coming off the iron safely. That constriction point is going to be the weakest part when he does eventually go to knock it off. But then, as you can see, he was also using the jacks to create that wasted in section at the end. He's now going to be getting Aria to blow while he shapes. You can already see a hint of that colour starting to come through, that kind of mirrored look on it. Getting it back on centre with the side of his jacks. And putting in that wasted section. So the tool he's just picked up is called a taglio, or a tags as we like to call them. Again, that's from Venetian glass blowing. I'd say here in this hot shop, we teach an absolute mixture of the different styles of glass blowing. You know, you've got English, Venetian, Swedish, American, just to name a few. And I myself kind of studied in the States. I studied in Ireland. I've worked in England. So I end up kind of teaching a real kind of melting pot of the different styles. He's just using the marver there now to flatten it down, emphasizing it with his tags, and puffing it back out again. And you can see every time he went onto the marver there, that bubble wanted to actually belly back in, so he had to keep topping it up with air to puff it back out. In our first demonstration today, when John was making his piece, it was fully solid. So when he was shaping it, he didn't have to actually worry about things bellying in. But Elliot will be fighting that the whole way through today when he's shaping it. Now he's just creating that texture on the kind of tail section. You can see there are textured mashers, flattening it down, creating kind of ribbed marks into it. And even though this glass is actually soft enough to be able to squish it down and do that, if he was to actually hit that with his tweezers, it would sound as if it's completely solid. Do we have any questions so far? Nothing so far? Taking it all in.
Thank you. Just turn it up a little bit, the pilot. No, just the pilot light.
So Elliot's going to soon start using our oxypropane torch.
Yeah, just really quick ones. And bring it back on the flats like that, and I'm just going to texture it up. Okay.
He's handed over to Kieran to take some heats for him. And you notice he was using the word flash. Take a flash for me. So flash is where you go deep into the glory hole, but for a short amount of time. And what that does is it kind of regulates the temperature throughout it and keeps it alive.
Okay, can someone cap it as well?
And he's just texturing up the body of this piece now. He has to be so careful with the torch as well, not to overheat any section. Elliot, what's the stamp made out of?
Just graphite.
Graphite. So graphite, much like what you get in your pencils, that's what Elliot's using. It has a texture in the very, very tip of it, and he's using that to press into the glass. The reason why we use graphite is actually it's very gentle in terms of the amount of heat it pulls out of the glass. You can imagine when he's stamping down on this, if he was to say maybe use a metal tool, it would be a bit harsher in terms of the heat that it extracts from the glass, even in that quick kind of stamping motion. But with the graphite, it doesn't take out the heat as quickly, so you can kind of continue to mark it up for longer. And Kieran's keeping a close eye not to actually allow the symmetry to go off kilter when he's heating up and going to and from the glory hole.
Okay, can I have that little bit now? So just one layer in the gold. Yeah, so just on both sides. That's good, that's good. Also give it a heat, that's good. And then straight up and down. Straight up? Yep, like that.
So Kieran is preheating what we call a bit. So he's going to bring a bit over to the piece. Straight up in the air, straight up in the air.
Okay, so keep the rest of this, alright?
And then Elliot can actually pick what he wants out of that bit, how much glass he wants. And if you've seen kind of intricate goblet work, Venetian goblets, that's made up of a lot of bit work, is what we call it.
Alright. So just give it another flatten again. Okay, I'm coming out. Ah. Same again. Yeah.
It's quite easy as well when you deliver a bit that when the gaffer, who's the main glass blower, when they cut off the bit, that you're ready to take the weight of the iron. If you're not, so easily you can end up actually hitting the piece and getting stuck to it with the rest of that bit. He's now using the tweezers, starting to pull out the end of the tail there, working on the fins. So when he was using the jacks earlier, and I said they were for sliding and gliding, and most of the other tools on the bench are for grabbing and cutting. And if you're not careful about how you put down your jacks and you put them down the wrong side, you can very easily get wax on the rest of your tools. And you go to grab a piece of glass and you just keep slipping off. It's just shearing through this glass.
Why the fish has been blown and it's not solid?
It's a good question. I want to pose that to the artist in a moment. have a question from the audience.
Yeah.
Is there a reason why you've decided to blow the fish instead of making it solid?
Yeah, it's for weight, really.
The weight.
Yeah, like some of these pieces, I'm thinking about like wall mounting. So if it's solid, you've got really heavy components on it. Makes it much more difficult to mount.
It's really quite a big consideration when you are making a new sculpture. It's not just even kind of focusing on being able to achieve what you set out to do in terms of how it looks. It's also about actually how is it going to get displayed? How will it get shipped? Will it make it to the place it's going to and survive the shipping? All these kind of logistical side of things can really play into actually how we end up making pieces.
Take this off me. Okay. Yeah, take it. Love it back. Okay. Thank you. There you are. So this is nearly ready to go away. Nope.
So Elliot's nearly finished on this part of the sculpture, and he's going to be putting this into one of our kilns to stay nice and warm. Yeah?
Yeah. Have a bit more juice on this.
Yeah.
Thank you. Let's try that.
Yeah. So you can really start to see the color change in this piece. You'll notice it's gone from that kind of amber gold color into this almost oil slick metallic color. This is what we call a reducing color. When you reduce the color, what you're doing is you're creating a gas-rich, oxygen-deprived atmosphere. And what it does, or my understanding of what it does, although John and Elliot might be able to tell me better, is it basically pulls up the metal oxides that are within the glass itself up to the surface because they're being starved of oxygen. That's what I was told by an enameler. An enameler?
An enameler?
Yeah.
Are my tongues knocking around?
Sorry.
You say
Tongues. No, I felt them.
You just, no.
But as soon as you bring that reduced glass back into a balanced flame, like the glory hole, it quickly loses that reduction surface.
So we have to make sure I can do that right at the end.
And I was going to bring it on over to the top loader. Lovely. Great. I think that deserves a round of applause. So the fish has gone in the oven to bake. I'm going to work on the next part of it.
One. Thank you. All right.
Elliot.
Sure.
Can you find a good straight one then? Make sure it's not blocked, and then heat it up for a minute.
Try a different one.
The subs. Do you see it?
Yeah.
I just sometimes get the newspaper on it.
Okay.
The black rubbered ones are straighter.
Yeah, please, thank you. Oh. Right. Okay.
How many
I'm
hours
just
a
going
week
to
do
pick
your
up a bit of
students get in
colour.
hot shop?
Really, it's actually kind of as much as they want. Now, the art shop opening hours is from 10 in the morning until 5 in the evening. But what we find is, because we actually have to fit a whole lot into the curriculum, and it's not just the practical work, it's also looking at theory, looking at professional practice, all that kind of thing. So I say in theory they have as much as they want, but they themselves actually don't always have so much free time to come down and practice. But when students start off with us in first year, they normally come to me for like the first 8 weeks, and we do what's called the building blocks of glass blowing. So they're in with me on a Monday for the whole day, and then they come back in the middle of the week to do some self-directed practice.
Yeah.
Oh, we've got a question from YouTube. Can you read it out, Joe?
The question is, hey, what type of fish is it?
Yeah.
That's a good
I'll just,
question.
like, tap around for a while and then,
We'll ask.
yeah, when we come to putting it together, I'll clue everyone in because that's the bit that I don't know about.
We've got a question from YouTube.
Okay, cool.
What type of fish is it?
It's a trout.
It's a trout. Are you making that up, or are you
Well, it's a sort of a trout, yeah.
troutish?
Trouty.
It is a trout. If there's any keen anglers in the room who want to show off their knowledge, feel free to. It's definitely not edible, anyways.
Hey?
Definitely not edible. I get a lot of people asking me, do I ever feel the desire to eat the glass? Honestly, yeah. People ask me that.
Have a nibble, yeah.
Just have a little nibble. It's like I like hot food, but not that hot. So this is solid color here that Elliot has. Is it an enamel white or an opaline?
Opaline.
It's opaline, which is a beautiful color. It's kind of this milky white color. But you will notice when he comes in and out of the glory hole, the tip is clear on it. And eventually it'll kind of almost maybe even all look clear. So this color looks completely transparent when it's hot, and it quickly goes back to its original kind of milky opaline color. But it just kind of goes to show you the heat difference in the glory hole, because it's the furthest most tip that gets hottest. And he's going to eat it now, yeah. Finally answering all those questions. Pulling out what we call a stringer.
That's just for my eyeball.
Oh, is it?
Oh, yeah.
So it's for the eyeball that he's just pulled out that opaline stringer. What are you going to do with the rest of the color, Elliot?
This will be the base color for the bubble form.
Nice. So you need that color being put back in?
Yeah.
Sure will. So he's pulled out his stringer out of that beautiful opaline color. He's going to take the rest of that color, we call it color bar, and he's going to put it back in the kiln to keep it warm. He's going to use it for the base, he said.
Oh, lovely. All right.
So we're getting through the components. We have another question.
What shells have you got? Are they just on steel sand.
In there,
Yeah.
so we've got kiln shelf. Yeah, like onto ceramic kiln shelf.
This is
So,
ceramic.
yeah,
It's like
no,
that.
just like pure ceramic kiln shelf. This is cut down, but it's
So you painted it with a
oh
backwash.
yeah. So it's painted with a bat wash. So if you want to pass this around and have a look at it, do you want to have a look at it and pass it around? So this is what we use as well over in the ceramics area, up within kiln glass. But it's basically this ceramic kind of shelf, not dissimilar to kind of like a pizza stone. Yeah, do you know where you can get like a ceramic pizza stone? But we coat it in something called bat wash, and that basically prevents the glass from sticking to it. It's kind of this almost like white powdery substance that we mix up with water and then paint it on. That stops the glass sticking to it. Thank you very much. But there are many different ways that you can put glass into the kiln, especially in the hot shop, many different surfaces. When you're doing things in the kiln like fusing and casting, you have to be quite particular about what you put your pieces down on because often they melt on top of it. Whereas here, when we make our work, we often consider it cold going into the kiln, even though it's still up around 600 degrees Celsius, that's cold to us. So we use a combination of things. Sometimes we use just baking trays filled up with a substance called vermiculite, which is used in potting soil. And that can be quite handy if the piece we're making doesn't have a flat base and it will be likely to roll around. We put it in on a vermiculite tray. And then sometimes we just put it straight in on the metal shelves. Normally, if it's blown vessels, we put it rim down onto the metal. Is that the final gather on this part, Elliot? Yep. I think it must be. And you see very quickly, the colour that he's picking up, it's absolutely at room temperature. And he picks it up and it covers the surface. It kind of looks matte, a little bit sandy, and just a quick little flash in the glory hole will melt that in to be completely glossy. He's using the marver there, and the section he's shaping there at the beginning is called the moil. The moil is the section of glass that's on the blowing iron, and again it comes from Italian. It's spelled M-O-I-L-E, moil. So he pins the moil down and then he goes back to work on the tip and then slowly makes his way down to kind of create this pointed egg shape. He's going to pop the bubble in it, blink and you'll miss it. There it is, coming through. So getting the initial bubble into the glass, what we call the starter bubble. If you were to just stand there and blow, you'd have to blow actually quite hard. I presume everyone here has blown up a balloon at one point or another. So it's really, really similar. It's that first bit, actually getting it going is the most difficult part. But once you break that kind of surface tension and the tension between the glass and the metal and you get the bubble started, it inflates really easily after that. So again, he's shaping down the top end, making sure that it stays cold. And when he's in the glory hole, he's also making sure that he doesn't just turn one direction only. If you do that, eventually your bubble will start to go slightly off kilter. So you want to switch up the direction you turn. The little swing he does when he comes out of the glory hole, that's to elongate it. It's a mixture of gravity and centrifugal force, elongating it outwards. So he's lining up for what we call a bench blow, where he'll have one of the assistants blow while he shapes on the other end. You can imagine actually this was quite difficult during COVID. We had to find other ways of learning how to work together in a team without blowing for each other. So we use a combination of things called blow hoses, which are kind of long latex tubes that go to your mouth and then to the end of the blowing iron. Really hard to work with though. It's kind of, you have to get used to working with them as well. But now we're pretty much back to kind of regular assisting here. A lot of people think that glass blowers must have a massive lung capacity, but I think it's a bit of a myth. It's actually about learning how to blow. So when you'll notice when he gets back to the bench, when Arya's blowing, like his cheeks aren't puffing out, he's actually keeping them in nice and tight. You kind of blow almost from your diaphragm. So if anyone here has done singing, you'll know that kind of almost like circular breathing, blowing or singing from your diaphragm. It's kind of similar. And it's like you're blowing out a candle. So when Arya goes on at the beginning, he goes on really gently. And it's not up to him to decide how much air that this piece needs. It's up to Elliot to decide. So he will be telling Arya accordingly when he's blowing how much air he needs, if any at all. Now flattening it down, just like with the first part. As soon as he goes on here onto the marver, it starts to belly in. So he'll be inflating that back up again. Maybe. Now he's
figuring this out as I go along a little bit.
okay. You and me both, Elliot.
Yeah. Thank you, classic. That's it.
You see, Elliot is looking at his phone on the bench. He's not checking his text coming through. He's got a picture of a fish up on it. Something to just refer back to. It's like you think you know what a fish looks like until you go to try and make it in glass.
It's sort of it's a rainbow trout, that one.
Elliot, it's burning your foot.
Is she going to cap it for me? Oh, yeah.
So now he's heating up the next section that he's going to start scoring into. Ari's on the other end, and he's capping the end of the blowing iron, or he will be. Yes.
Cap,
So capping it just keeps the air in it. If he wasn't capping it, then actually when Elliot goes on to create that mark, the bubble would dimple in quite dramatically. So just a simple thing of capping the end, keeping the air in it, allows Elliot to actually put quite a bit of force in to get that indentation there.
Okay, cap.
So when you're looking at the sections that he's using the torch on, it might just look like a big yellow kind of blur.
Cap
So
again.
the glasses that Elliot is wearing, it's a special type of glass that filters out that strong yellow light. It's called sodium flare. When you're working continuously with a torch on glass and you're looking at the sodium flare for a long time, it can actually damage your eyes. Today we're only looking at it a little bit, so it's okay. But this is what Elliot does all the time. So he's got a special pair of glasses to filter out the light, and he can see exactly what's going on. It'll just be like a blue light to him, and he'll be able to see exactly what's going on with the glass and where the heat is and where he needs to shape. So this action here that he's taking with the taglio, it's really difficult to get used to this. I've often gone into a bubble to try and shape it, and then I've slipped and hit my hand off it. Really easy to do.
Hour in. An hour goes fast, doesn't it? Hour goes fast. Yeah.
So we've been working on this so far now for about 45 minutes. Got an hour to go. Get all the pieces made and assembled.
I'll speed up a bit.
No, it's okay.
Take your flat back. Okay, and then if you can blow quite hard.
So not only does the tags shape the glass, but it can also chill it down for us. So
Okay, stop.
whilst Aria is blowing and Elliot is using the tags at the end, he's actually chilling it down, stopping it from blowing out too much in that one section. now using what we call a diamond shears. Moving back to his jacks to neck in and tap off the end. There we go. Oh, we've got another question from our online audience.
Okay, the question is it really easy to break the glass at this point?
Not so much at this point. This is actually, it's pretty stable at this point. In terms of if you hit it hard enough, you would be able to break it. Like you could hear when actually Elliot went in to try and knock off the end, it made a hard noise. If you were to get like a hammer to it, you would be able to break it at this point. But in terms of its kind of stability, like will it fall off the yarn at this point? Will it crack to submerge? The answer is kind of no. The point at which it's most likely to break is going to be when we assemble it all together.
Hey, you flash that. Oh, sorry.
So Elliot, at this point in your career in glass, how often do you lose pieces at the bench?
Fairly often.
Fairly often.
Yeah. That's never your own fault, yeah.
Yeah.
It's never my fault.
So is it normally during punting you lose it?
Yeah, it can be, or like, you know, when you're putting something together.
Yes, which is what you're going to be doing?
Yeah.
Yep. With assistants you've never worked with before?
That's it.
Yep. He's now going in for the mouth. That's what I say. I always say it's the gaffer's fault.
Always.
The way I teach my students as well. When you're the gaffer, it's up to you if you want to accept that punty. If you accept it and it falls off the punty.
That's right.
But look, you're the famous person in the room today, so we'll let you away with it. Do we have any questions in here from our in-house audience? Nothing so far? We're quite fortunate here today. We've actually got two people in our audience who've come up from the Isle of Wight. What studio are you coming from?
Scope glass.
Lovely. So they've come up today to see both demos. John Moran's, which was on this morning, which you can view back on YouTube. And now here for Elliot's. What do you think of our hot shop so far?
Yeah, it's pretty nice. Nice setup.
Pretty nice. Nice setup, yeah. We're going to have to go down and visit you guys then sometime.
Let's see how small ours is.
Yeah.
Look about 10 the size.
I bet you fit a lot in though.
Again, yeah. So I'm gonna, can I get a bit of gold, just a really small one, into a little cylinder?
So really the glass community is such a special community that we're part of. It's global, but yet it's tiny. And what you'll find is that actually when you get into it, you know, you could be going anywhere in the world and just reach out to the community and say, hey, I'm visiting such and such a place next week. Can I call into a studio? And normally you'll have a lot of people saying, yeah, come along. It's a very friendly community. I think it's because that's the way we have to work. We have to work as part of a team.
That's too much, yeah. Like half of that, yeah.
And we do like to share as much knowledge as we can. And that can be even knowledge, not just down to the techniques, but to where you get your equipment from, who supplies your glass. Especially within England, a lot of the folks that are working out in the studios will have worked in several studios in England or will have worked with each other at some point. It's really quite a kind of close-knit community that we're part of. And often when things go wrong, when parts to our furnace break down, we definitely rely on each other to kind of come and save the day with emergency parts to kind of tie us over until we get proper replacement parts fitted.
Yeah. you.
So John's coming over with another bit.
Yep. Next one. Okay, flash that. You can just start another one.
Callum, can you put up more bit irons, please? Thank you.
There you go. Yep.
Got another question from our online audience.
So I think it's a question for the artist. What's the hardest piece in terms of difficulty that they've worked on career-wise, so throughout their career?
Big question. Big question. Okay. I'll go with John first because once he delivers a bit, he might have a minute. Elliot, have you got headspace for a question?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Yeah? What is the most difficult piece you've worked on across your entire career?
I think I did a piece in Pittsburgh, which was it's like a full-size human spine. So we made all the different parts of the spine. So like every vertebrae separate, and then we made the pelvis as well, and then we put like a loop into the spine, and I mean it broke. So.
Yeah. Was the title The Unbroken?
Yeah, the unbroken back.
The
Yeah.
Unbroken Back. Elliot last April was down in Arts University Plymouth, down in Devon, and I think you were just kind of figuring that piece out then, weren't you?
Yeah, we just started sort of working on the components.
Yeah, so and you can actually watch it back on YouTube as well. We actually really took inspiration for today's live stream from Plymouth's amazing live stream, so I'd check it out if I were you guys. It's called The Melting Pot, so big shout out to them. But yeah, Elliot did a demo of these kind of multivertebrate pieces, and it looked amazing, and he had the kind of curl in it or the spiral in it that he was talking about. So Elliot, did it break on the pipe in Pittsburgh, or did it break taking it off?
Like the last second when we were just about to put it away, which is always the way it happens.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, I wasn't even touching it. Okay.
I was working on a big piece before in the States, really, really long piece, and one of my assistants leant over to have a look at it, and they dripped sweat down on it, and it formed a crack all the way up the entire piece.
Really short, yeah.
So, John, the same question to you. The hardest piece you've worked on across your career? Have a think. Have a think and let us know. So Elliot's coming on here with his.
I have no idea. I don't have any. Yeah. Probably the hardest piece I think I worked on was the one during the Corning residency that didn't succeed. I guess every one that succeeds is not that hard. But I think just developing things over time, it's usually the process of making things and failing and sucking at it, and that makes them the hardest. And then you figure it out, and then they look easy later. So it's hard to say.
It's wiped from the memory that it was hard.
Yeah, exactly. Then I forget it. That's
yeah.
it.
Yeah. Do you think you get a lot of joy in figuring things out, the pieces that go wrong?
Yeah, definitely. When I'm done with them, it's very nice. I don't have to think about it anymore. Then I really like that. When it becomes mindless, like the process is embedded, and then I can just focus on the details, then I really like that part.
Yeah. What we kind of often say about glass blowers is it's not that we're kind of masters at making amazing glass. We're more like masters at just figuring out when things go wrong.
So Do you find any particular colours harder to work with, and if so, why?
Okay. I'll take that question to the artists as well. So for our own audience here, so you can hear what they ask, if we find any particular colours harder to work with and why. So, I mean, I personally find it hard when I'm combining two very different colours. Like say if I'm combining a black and a white in a piece, the black wants to blow out very easily. It's a very soft colour, and then the white is a very stiff colour. It doesn't want to blow out as easily. And it can be actually quite hard to manage a piece that, say, has one side completely in a stiff colour and the other side in a soft colour. So rather than the colour itself being hard to work with, it's more the combination with what it's put with.
No, just clear, very small, and then straight up.
John, do you have any colours that you find particularly hard to work with?
I'm not very good with like these colors that reduce. Like I always struggle with those, but I don't use them a lot because of that. So, but I do a lot of like color powdering and like layers. So I spend a lot of time figuring those layers out. Now I kind of know them, but when I was going through the process of figuring all of that out, I had a lot of failure with that, like inconsistent coloring or incompatible coloring. But now I usually work with things I know and that I know work well, so I don't have too many problems anymore.
And when you were, say, doing the testing for all of that, because you layer up a lot of colours, right, to create these realistic, like even skin palettes, that kind of thing. Did you do smaller samples, or did you just go for the big thing, the real thing every time?
I'm not very smart about sampling, so typically I would do something all the way and then realize that when it came out of the oven that it wasn't right. So a lot of wasted, or things I would have to adapt later.
Yeah.
But I kept good records, so I knew like what was happening. And once I kind of had a winning, I want to say like a recipe, then I kind of stuck with that quite a bit.
Yeah. I mean, I always think when I nail a technique in the hot shop, even down to what temperatures the kilns were at, that kind of thing, I always think I'm going to remember it. I don't need to write it down. A month passes, and I can't remember it at all.
The thing that I do is I tend to write notes to myself that I think I'll remember, and then I don't know what my note is.
No.
No, all right, okay.
Do you want?
I should have brought one.
Do you want?
Okay. No, it's good.
Do you want me to go and get one? Are you sure?
Yeah, flatten that up.
Would there be a bit of copper pipe or any pipe at all small enough for the eye?
Yeah.
In metal.
Right, have a big straight blower up. Big blower,
Did you have a
straight
look?
one.
Elliot, Kelly's just gone to have a look in the metal shop, just in case.
Yep. Okay, like that. Straight up. Yeah. Sorry. And another one like that, please. So just start a fresh one. Yes, please.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was thinking about the hardest piece that I ever made, and it wasn't one technically, but like after that boy Alan Kurdi washed up on the beach. I don't know if you remember this image of Alan Kurdi, the boy who, like the Syrian boy who washed up on the beach of Turkey. I made a piece about that, and we were working as a group, and I was working on the shoes of it. And I remember this point that like everyone working on it got really quiet because we were like putting this very realistic touch on it, and it got really emotional. And typically I'm quite separated from it. Like I go through the emotional when I'm like conceptualizing a piece, not when I'm making it. And I remember that being very tough because we knew we couldn't lose it at that point.
Yeah.
But it wasn't necessarily the technical part of it. It was like all of it coming together at one time.
And because a lot of your work does have kind of socio-political references, do you find that you get to the end of a body of work, do you feel like a bit emotionally exhausted?
No, for me it's really cathartic. Like a lot of the work that I make, it's like coming to terms with it. Like rather than it being like a commentary, it's more like my own, trying to understand something or whatever. So it's not necessarily, and so much of the stuff that I touch on typically is an ongoing problem, so it never really comes to the end of it.
Yeah.
So like a lot of gun violence work, a lot of work about war and injustice, and that always exists.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Are you on like a tour around the UK? Just wonder if John's on like a tour around the UK, so different hot shops.
Okay,
Beer tour.
A tour of the. Are you on a tour of the UK this time?
No. This time I'm just here at Farnham.
Yeah.
I'm going to Trowbridge for one night, so a little.
One night in
tour.
Trowbridge.
Yeah, one night in Trowbridge at the boutique.
Yeah. So you're going over to James
Devereaux Husky, yeah.
Devereaux and Husky. So James Devereaux
Oh, yeah.
and Catherine Husky's hot shop over there.
I've come over relatively frequently over the last year. Like I went to the opening for Elliot's Elliot Best Studio, and then did a demo in London glass blowing sometime in May or something like that. So I come over relatively frequently.
Yeah. So John is based out in Ghent. He runs Ghent Glass. So he came up to us on the Eurostar.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's the quick train ride.
Yeah.
Okay, so that'll do.
That'll do?
That'll do. Fish head.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's going in the oven.
It's not too bad, yeah.
Nice. So now he is going to knock this off. Glove up, and then he's going to be putting it in the kiln. John, do you want to get the kiln? Sorry. Multitasking.
Yeah, no, it's fine.
Can you press back on? And put it back on.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. Now I'm just going to stick that one on, and then we'll get the blue out, and we'll drop the blue over the top.
The kiln turns off automatically, so you don't need to stop it. You can just open it.
Okay.
Yeah. No, that's all right. Can we take the mic?
Yes.
Elliot, is this good enough?
It's a bit late, but that's
It's
really
late,
cool.
too late?
Yeah, I was just going to go over the eye. But it's
Well, we
fine.
might keep it for the hot shop.
Okay.
Thank you, Kelly. As I said, we have very expensive, specific handmade tools, and then we have butter knives and copper pipes. Yeah. Bit of broken kiln shelf. Use that as a for making texture.
Yep.
So Kieran here has just preheated some of that solid color bar. So we get our color in many different formats. You'll see that we had the powder earlier and the grain. And then this is solid color bar. I've got a piece here I can pass around. Just be careful, the end is a bit sharp on it, but just so you can have a look. You guys know what it looks like.
Yeah,
So this is solid color bar, and this color, as you can tell, is red that we're passing around. But it's an opaque color. Anytime we have transparent colors, they often actually just look black because they're transparent, but they're really, really, really dense. And what we do is we take a little nugget of it and we preheat it. We put it on our blowing iron and then we coat it in clear glass. And as we blow out, the difference between the color and the clear becomes less noticeable. And
Very well done.
as it blows out, the clear acts as a magnifying glass on top of the color.
Yeah. Yeah, just give that for a shot for you. Yeah, thanks. Yeah.
Another question? They're coming in hot.
So will the demo pieces be available to view in Farnham once fully annealed?
Ooh, that's a good question. That's a good question. I think we're going to first see if they make it into the kiln alive, and then see what the artists want to do. Yeah, but we'll certainly take a picture of it. We might even get it up on the social media. Keep an eye on the Uni Creative Arts social media, and we'll post up what they look like afterwards. We always joke that the glass shrinks in the annealer. It doesn't really. It just seems like really big when you're working on it. When you take it out, it's like this tiny cup. Yours might trick in the other. Yeah. That's what happens. Yeah. John, have you your work on show anywhere in the UK at the moment? No. Is it up with
In Blowfish. Yeah, I have work on display at Blowfish Gallery at Elliot and Beth's gallery in Stourbridge.
Stourbridge, Trowbridge?
Yeah, in one of the bridges.
In one of the bridges. Elliot, have you your work on show anywhere in the UK at the moment?
London Glass Blowing.
London Glass Blowing.
Vessel Gallery.
Vessel Gallery.
Blowfish.
Blowfish.
As well. I think that's it at the minute, yeah.
So,
and Netflix.
And Netflix. Always and forever. And now on UCA's YouTube. Yeah. Immortalized forever. So London Glass Blowing and Vessel, they're both based in London.
I think so.
London Glass Blowing have a hot shop actually with their gallery. It's a gallery in the front and a hot shop in the back. So it's always worth checking out. One of our alumni from last year has been working up in London Glass Blowing.
Yeah.
So a lot of our students do actually go on to work in studios and they go on to exhibit as well. A lot of times during kind of open days and that here we get questions from parents saying, what is the employment opportunity within glass blowing? And you might think it's quite low, but actually the way I look at it is if a student comes and they have any sort of kind of aptitude, but it's the passion, I think more so, I think you can make kind of jobs happen around you. And if you get out to studios, you work with different artists and you just put the work in, you do get called up to do jobs here and there, and that can eventually lead into full-time employment. Elliot, where did you study?
In Wolverhampton.
In Wolverhampton.
Lovely, thank you.
And John, where did you do your undergrad?
Tyler School of Art in Philadelphia.
Tyler in Philadelphia.
You want to shorten that up quite quickly. So just marble the sides briefly and lift it right up and squash it back. Yeah, and then vertically.
But now in the
straight
UK,
down.
there's only a handful of places that will actually teach glass blowing at undergraduate level. So we're really becoming kind of a bit of an ultra specialist area in that sense. That there's very few remaining, and that's why it's so important that we do actually pass on these skills to the next generation and we give them the opportunity, like today, you know, to meet international artists, highly skilled international artists. Yes, if you'd like to make a donation to the course. Or if you'd like to come and study here, that's just as good.
One more of those should be all right, yeah. So when you do this,
So Kieran's preparing what we call a drop over or an overlay drop over. He's preparing this shape that kind of looks like that with the pipe on that side. So it's got a long back end and it comes up to a pointy taper at the top. So in a way, it's almost like an angular teardrop. And the idea is that he will get that very hot and then he'll come over to Elliot and drop it over on top. When you're first learning how to do these, it's actually a really tricky shape to get the hang of and get the pressure of how to use the marver correct.
No, it's not. It's a big bit of colour. You know, it takes time to do. Yeah, well, I want it to be really dense, you know.
So Elliot's just flashing his piece every so often, making sure it doesn't get too cold.
Okay. I was going to do a bubble overlay, but
Oh, okay.
I don't think I can do one in half an hour.
Wait. You were, as in you were going to do Swedish overlay?
Yeah, because I want the colour
Well, I told
on
everyone
the
you were just doing a
outside.
drop over, so.
I am now, yeah.
Okay,
that's
yeah.
good.
So there's two different ways to get this kind of color over the top when it's solid. You've got what they're doing right now, which as I said is a drop over. And then what Elliot just referred to as a color overlay. It's also known as a Swedish overlay. And that method is where you make another bubble. And if you remember not so long ago, I told you when you have color on the very center of the bubble and the clear glass over it and it blows out. So the color's on the very, very inside, only about 2 or 3 mil thick. And you prepare a bubble and it kind of looks like a Hershey's Kiss. You hand it on to your assistant to keep alive and keep warm whilst you prepare the core that it's going to go over. And then when everyone's ready, you basically bring them together and you push them in together and knock off the bubble that the assistant was looking after. And then you start to basically peel that bubble and it comes out and it looks like a sombrero for a while. Then it looks like a frilly dress and then eventually it gets tucked back in. And what you've essentially done is like putting on a sock inside out. You've exposed that colour to be on the very outside. And that can be particularly important when you want the colour on the outside if you're, for example, reducing it. So say like where you use the propane torch to make a metallic finish, you want the colour on the outside. It can also be very important if you're actually then carving through the glass in its cold state and you want to carve through different colour layers. You will use a variety of kind of overlay methods. Do you want that closed? Do you want that closed? What colour? What colour was the overlay?
This is a really dark blue.
Really dark blue. Are
Really
you
dark
hoping
blue.
to create kind of a bit of an opaline like gradient within it?
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, I'm hoping it'll sort of come and go.
Mm. So he's got that opaline on the very core, covered in a dark blue, and then when this actually blows out, there will be a kind of difference in the density of the colour. Now he's taking a quick moment to tidy his bench. When we are waiting to go in for our next gather, that's when we can just actually pause for a moment and do stuff like tidy our bench, maybe have a drink of water, maybe think about our next steps. Maybe.
Check your text messages.
Check your text messages. Get back to your fans. Yeah. Scratch your mustache like Elliot was doing.
Okay.
Huh? Yes. Mm. All right. So now he's hopping on there with his newspaper. It's really vital that the newspaper stays wet. If it dries out, it scuffs the glass with ash. So on one side, you've got about 1,000-degree glass, and on the other side, it's as cool as a cucumber. And this is just bog standard tabloid newspaper. The best is, of course, broadsheet. Broadsheet newspaper, the Times maybe. And it's more so to do with the amount of coloured ink in it and the quality of the paper more than the content.
Although at one point it was really nice burning Boris Johnson's face every day.
Yes. When I started in this role, I started in April 2020 in lockdown, and I kind of started back in the hot shop, many months later. But all the newspapers we had were from March. And I was teaching my students how to make their newspapers, and we folded Boris up to the top of it. And the top page said, We will beat this in 2 weeks. They all learned how to paper their glass with Boris's face. You see that steam coming out of it? It's wetting it down. And he's not actually really shaping the glass with the paper. We say he's more shaping it with the steam. As soon as that steam goes, he's scuffing it up with ash.
I thought that was just concentrating.
Huh?
Steam concentrating.
Yeah. Steam coming out of his ears. Yeah.
Let's just shift that tray under the marker, and then we'll have someone on the doors for a bit, I think.
Sorry, what?
Just shove that underneath, and then we'll have someone on the doors, like whoever.
Oh. That is how you carry an expensive piece of art. Bring it out for a walk. So, Elliot, are you still forming the shape in your head?
Yeah, I am.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to go for like a sort of droplet shape. It's flattened on one side, and then the tail's going to squish in to the big bit, and then the head I want to sort of stretch out on this weird like neck thing, so when it's on the wall it'll like be dripping.
Yes.
Something like that.
Yeah.
But it is a test, so.
Okay. That's what we like to see.
I think my head's a bit big. I mean, the fish head's a bit big.
Did you consider using calipers at all, or do you ever?
I do sometimes, yeah. I should have done for this.
All right.
Let's have a little look. Yeah, a bit big. Never mind. Okay.
Any questions in here from our audience? Nothing? Oh, we got a question.
What's the difference between the big torch and the little torch? What different effects do they have?
Nice question. So he asked, what's the difference between the big torch and the little torch that we have? The big torch is also known as the fluffy torch, and that's because the flame it produces is really wafty. It's nice and fluffy. The other torch we call our hot torch. It's a very condensed, hot torch. The big torch runs on propane only. It's a big wafty flame. It's for generally keeping a bigger area warm. It's also used to reduce colors because it is a gas-rich flame. Then the little torch is used more so for spot heating when you want to sculpt or add pieces together. So earlier for John's demo, he just stuck with the hot torch. He didn't really have anything you needed the fluffy torch for. But Elliot is using both because he's also using that iridescent yellow iris color. So they do have very much different things that we use them for. One time we had an artist here. It was James Devereux, for those that know him. And he thought he would max out all of our equipment, see how big he could go. And he made a piece so long that it didn't fit in the glory hole. And we had to use our fluffy torch on the back end of the piece while he was in the glory hole just to keep it alive. And it still broke at the end. And it was about 14 kilos, which mightn't sound like a whole lot, but when you put 14 kilos of solid glass, long piece, on the end of a blowing iron, that is quite a weight, quite a live load to move around and keep turning.
I'll just have one side, one of the big ones open, and then close me in for the next go. For the next go,
Yeah.
Okay, I'll have a blue. Okay, flow gently. Yeah. Stop. Okay, even softer for now. Yeah. Okay, blow.
So that little action in between where he's holding it up, it kind of lengthens out that shoulder area, thins it out. The shoulder area is the part where he's papering right now. It's that bit just below the iron where it starts to get wide. That's the shoulder area.
Stop. So close the small. Yep. That's it. And then close. Lovely. Open.
Getting onto the marver, shaping that bubble. And if he doesn't keep smooth turning up, that bubble will go off center straight away. Starting to create a neckline there with the corner of the marver. Elliot's taking the weight of that. I know he's making it look super smooth, but trust me, it's really hard to keep that smooth turning up on a piece this big. And you can start to get glimpses of that really rich blue coming through. Can anyone see it from the audience? Yeah. So even though it looks red, every so often you can get that really, really rich blue coming through in the background. A lot of the colors that we work with look completely different when they're hot. Red especially looks black. A lot of the oranges look like a dark brown. As you saw earlier, white can look clear.
Don't switch in between them. Yeah.
Yellows, I say a lot of blues as well look green.
Blowing. Blow. Bit harder. Bit harder.
He's now really using that paper to pinch in, create that wasted section.
Next up.
If anyone here has ever done throwing before, blowing is actually quite similar, except it's turning on a different axis, and there's a hell of a lot in the difference in terms of temperature. But in terms of how you shape it, we are using newspaper, but behind that, we're actually using our fingers in a particular way as we rotate to create that wasted section.
Okay, blow.
And now he's trying to kind of throw that shape off kilter. He's aiming for that teardrop, water droplet shape.
Stop.
And sometimes when the bubble isn't inflating, it's not your assistant, you just need to get it hot again.
Little, open that one, yeah. Okay, and then on the big one again, yeah. So just leave that little one open.
When pieces get this big, you have to be super careful in the glory hole not to hit it off of the side of the doors, but also not to turn too quickly. If you start turning really quickly when the bottom is so wide, that kind of centrifugal force can pull it out, and you can actually eventually open up a bubble if you're turning too fast and applying the heat to it.
Whoa! The head of the iron is coming off.
No.
So we have to flash this really carefully, okay? Really carefully.
Will we punty it?
Yeah, we should do
Yeah.
that quickly, actually. Okay, can you...
Do you want me to hop in?
Take a flash. Yeah.
Do you want me to punty it?
I'm going to do a blown one. I need to pop a hole in
Okay,
it.
yeah.
See? No, don't run away. Don't run away. Okay, that's good. And away to closing in each time. Okay, just on the
So
edges.
Elliot has just noticed that the head of our iron is starting to come off. You invite these artists in to use our studios and they wreck it.
Okay, so if you can get the hot torch on the punty. Yes, please, just a brief one. Shit.
So we need to transfer this bubble quite quickly before the head of the iron comes off. What Elliot's going to make is called a blow punty. He is doing it on a hollow blowing iron.
How is it?
He's going to pop through a bubble and create a kind of crown on the top, which is going to go on to the bottom of this piece where he's just made a hole into.
So on your next flash, just hang out on here. So on your next flash, hang out on the yoke. Just bring it back and close the doors. Okay, let's go. So let him in, and then just hang out on the.
So now Ari has to be very gentle in his movements. Any kind of sudden slam on that pipe will be enough to rip the head off. Right, Elliot?
I think so.
Yeah. I don't think we'll have you back here, Elliot. I don't think we can afford it. The damage.
Yeah, it's definitely not my fault. Yeah.
He probably started this off.
Okay, we're going to swap over. Yeah. Pass it over the top. Beautifully done. And bring that straight round. No, it's good.
Okay. So he's trying to line it up there, get it over the hole that he's made in the bottom. He will be able to blow this when it's on this other iron. He'll need to close off the open end.
Okay.
But it will be essentially another blowing
iron.
iron.
On the floor, dry one. So I'm going to take this off now. Just on the floor, yeah. So if it's, yeah, just rest it down there, okay? All right, ready? Oh. That was good.
They would just put that straight out of the skip.
Okay, open it.
Fucking hell, mate.
You turn this for me. Yep,
I know.
Yeah, that sped it up a bit, didn't it?
I know we wanted like a dramatic demonstration, but this really wasn't expecting this.
Huh? Sorry. Okay, open the small one. Yep, and then just leave them both small ones open. Open the big one for me now. Yep. Okay, close.
But you know, these irons, they have had their years of use. They have made their way through many great artists.
Say use or use.
I said use, but maybe a bit of abuse as well. And you know, when students are learning how to work on irons, and I'm not blaming the students, but overheating your blowing irons can absolutely shorten the life of them.
Can I have the wide wooden board on the marble? Yeah. So I'm going to ask for the left one to be the one we open now.
All right, after that drama, do we have any questions from our in-person audience?
Okay, yeah.
No. We're just about recovered from that? Yeah,
No, it's all
me
right. We'll just
too.
use the other one. Yeah. Yeah, sorry. Can we get that one shut? Nice one. Okay. Right. Okay. Open. Okay, close. And then need that little one open. No, the little one. Yep, that's it. Thank you.
So now he's building up that heat. That was the coldest section of the whole piece.
Okay, can we turn down to program 2?
And it takes quite a while to get the heat back into the top there that was nearest the iron, or just completely attached to it, as we saw.
Okay, open. Close.
So he's going for a series of heats, deep flashes into the glory hole to get the temperature of the main part.
I'm going to change program. Can't do any worse than it's going, right? The pipe's probably not going to break on
Take
this
this for a sec. You got it? Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, blow.
Okay, so now he's closed off the end, we think.
Stop.
Yes. All right.
Try and close it right up if you can. Yeah.
Do you remember earlier when I said about being a glass blower, it's not about mastering the skills, it's about mastering when it goes wrong? I think this is a really good example of that. So now he's closed off the end and essentially has a bubble on a blowing iron again. And we do actually use this method for different things, where we work on the bottom half, we then use a blow punty, transfer it, close off the other end, and blow the rest of it. The question we had earlier from our audience about the difference between the two torches, I gotta say, the fluffy torch sometimes is for dramatic effect. So Elliot, are you lighting our bench on fire as well now while you're here?
Yes, I'm destroying everything.
Destroying everything.
Everything. Wait, can you just hold this, please? Yeah, just about. It won't in a minute. So I'm going to push the tail in here. I'm going to push the tail in there, and then I need someone to be getting ready to blow. So you're just capping it, you're keeping the pressure in to start with, and then last for a little blow, but you can't stop, put your thumb on and then blow. We need to keep the pressure there all the time. So almost like thumb the end up with your tongue while you're there.
So Elliot is just explaining to Aria here about the type of air and the type of pressure he wants in the blowing iron and in the bubble while he starts to assemble his piece.
What am I noodle tongue thing? Oh, yeah. No, yeah, yeah. Yeah, flash, yeah.
He's just preheating the tongs there.
Okay. So side edges, yeah. Edges, yeah. Flip.
And now he is starting to build up the heat in the section where he's going to put one of the fish sections. If we just got the whole bubble hot enough to join, when he puts them together, the whole thing would deform. But there is now heating up particular hot spots will allow it to fuse to that area without deforming too much of the rest of the shape.
Okay, gentle blow. Very gently. Stop. Lift. Okay, we're going to go for it after this flat. I'll just have it facing up. Okay, yep.
He's going for it. Don't forget earlier, this is where he said, this is where he loses most parts on the bench.
Yep. Okay, pressure in. Okay, flip. Okay, blow. Okay, flat.
All right, I think that deserves a clap. Oh, just about.
Sorry.
You know, it's not a competition, Elliot.
No.
So this piece is just about fitting in our glory hole. You can see that color is becoming iridescent now as he's torching it. Giving his glove a little preheat. Do you want a fresh glove?
Is that better? That's a bit better.
Do you want a fresh glove, Elliot?
That's all right. Sorry, mate. I've done this to you before, haven't I? Flip. 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 Okay, blow. Hard. Okay, good. Yep. Flat. Okay. Okay, just turn it now.
So the combination now of him shaping with that glove and Aria blowing on the other end has made this fish seem to almost appear out of this bubble.
Yeah. Just keep it in there for a bit longer, like. Okay, flat. Sorry. Okay, so we'll squish the other end on now. I'm just going to heat up that other end and then squash it on. torch on the back. Torch, yeah. Tail. Yeah. Just stay in there for a little bit. So we're going to do the same with you blowing.
Okay, he's going for the next part.
Okay, flip.
So really at this point, the most vulnerable parts of this piece is the end of the tail. It's the thinnest part, and it's actually going to be cooling down a lot quicker than the rest of it.
So I need you on the tail every time.
So on the next heat, we will have Faith working on keeping that tail nice and warm with the big fluffy torch.
One more of those and we'll do it. So just the very tips of the tail. Okay. We'll do one more heat, one more flash, and we'll do it.
Elliot is preheating his gloves.
On my face.
He's preheating his face. Faith is also working on keeping that moil area alive. I know, right?
I'll let it flat on, okay? I'll let it on the flat. Okay? Okay, on the flat, yep.
Hey, it's showtime. Yes.
Alright, and blow hard. Flip. Yep.
So you see Arya is blowing on one end. Elliot is pushing it in. Do you want me to bring a punchy wrap on the next one?
I'll get it with the hot torch.
Sure.
Torch.
So the moil has now got a crack in it. Elliot is going to try and bat that crack back with his hot torch. And this is where the countdown clock really comes in. Keeping that moil alive to finish off the piece. Making sure that the very thin extremities of the sculpture don't get too cold because they will crack off. Oh lordy. Well, I've never seen someone use a hot torch to do that.
Flip. Okay, flash. Didn't really work neither.
I don't know. He's trying to reduce that color. So he knocked back the oxygen, made it a gas-rich flame to try and do it. But it is hard to get the balance right, and every time you go back into the glory hole, you can just reset it back to the way the color was originally.
Okay, I'll take it. Yep.
But it is starting to
Okay,
come
so
up.
just
You can see that
torch the hell
tail
out
is
of
starting
that.
to
Yeah.
become iridized.
Can you pop this in for me? Pop this back in, yeah. So just aim off the tail. I don't think it's going to reduce.
With the fluffing?
Yeah, I don't think it's not got enough juice, I don't think.
It'll take a while. Do you want me to get the mop gas out?
We could try it with that, yeah.
Yeah. Is there enough left in it? Yeah. We do have more. I think you need to open it. I don't know. I think the end of the fluffy will do it. Oh yeah, there is no well for it. We do have more, but I think he'll get it with the end of the fluffy. I think by pulling back. I find that you could pull back quite a bit to get it going.
Yeah, that's working. Yeah. That is like it.
Okay, we're starting to see it happen.
Did you say crack the pumpkin?
Cap, I think.
Okay, yeah.
I think. You're on doors? Yeah. John's playing fancy dress. It's his Halloween look. It's your Halloween look. It's your Halloween look. Yeah. He's like, yeah. So we are nearly there. John is all kitted out. He's going to be putting this piece away for Elliot. Okay, this is it, guys. Hold your breath.
Okay, so we're going to clamp the punty, please. No, clamp it.
Clamp it. Clamp
Yeah,
it.
with the jacks. Oh, yeah. Okay, you got it? Yep.
Woo!
That's really good. Oh yeah, that's brilliant. Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
Okay then.
There we go.
Well done.
Yeah, I liked that.
Yeah, you liked
I
it?
did like it, yeah.
Yeah, do you think it's the next step on
Yeah,
the shape?
from the thing. Yeah, definitely.
I'm glad you could try it out with us.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. So before we finish up here and we finish up on the live stream, online and in here, does anybody have any questions for Elliot now that he might have a little bit more headspace to answer them for you? Yes.
As either of the two of them work for an artist they're in awe of.
That they're in awe of. Nice question. Okay, question for both of you guys.
It was cool.
Question for both of you. Have you either of you worked with an artist that you're in awe of? Have you ever been starstruck?
I was about to say the same.
Oh. It's It's different when the cameras are off, though, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But I'm sure you have probably worked with some of the greats.
I love working with the Tour brothers. That's like that was when I first worked with them. It was a huge exciting thing to do. But I've also I've done jobs for other artists like Kuma Macklin that I really liked. Like I was a fan of his work when he got to work for him, which was cool.
I haven't really worked with many people.
Yeah.
But everyone we've had in our studio has been amazing to work with, and everyone's great. I mean, everyone is doing the same thing, having the same struggles, so you're in awe of anyone who can make this work, I think.
Yeah. And I think it's worth noting as well that sometimes we work with people who aren't glass artists, and we kind of facilitate their ideas and bring them to life. And sometimes they can be the funnest projects to work on, right?
Yeah, that's the worst.
And sometimes the worst.
Sometimes the worst.
Yeah. But it's really, vital in our community that we do work with other people and we work with each other and not become insular, because actually none of us are an island. We very much are within this kind of ecosystem of workshops, and workshops that are becoming fewer and fewer, in the UK and Ireland, but even further afield as well. A lot of studios are struggling right now, aren't they?
It's difficult for everyone.
Yeah. So being able to have these two exceptional artists come to us today, I mean, it's been a year-long kind of project in the making for me. But it did start off with
just found out of it on Wednesday, I think.
But it did start off with just a few drinks over in America when we were there last year for the Glass Art Society conference. And we said, hey, let's do a demo, but I don't think they had any idea what they were letting themselves in for.
She got us drunk and made us agree to it. That was
I've got their signed copies, contracts as well. Have we any questions from the online audience? I don't think so. Okay, any other questions here?
Oh, mate, you're a genius.
Okay, well, I think we'll finish up with a massive round of applause for both artists and our awesome Hot Shop team. Woo. Thank you for coming.
And thank you for setting it all up. And
It's my
thank you, Laura,
pleasure.
for doing this.
My pleasure.
She put in way more work than we did.
And I didn't break anything.
That was Elliot.
Okay. Thanks a million.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I hope you enjoyed it.
I'll just say, wow.
You gotta head
That
off
was
now.
fun.